All right, everybody, what's going on today? I have a special guest here on my show. We are talking about Alzheimer's once again. I wanted to introduce someone that took care of my father while he was going through the stages of dementia and Alzheimer's from the beginning to the end. Can you please introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is Tina.
Hi, Tina. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yes, that's good to hear. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a lot older than a lot of people. Fortunately, I survived my husband's battle with Alzheimer's, and
Mhm.
I am not sad. I am happy for him and for me.
Yes. Now this perspective is a bit different because last time we spoke, it was my perspective, seeing things from where I started at, which was, this was a few years ago. But you noticed this a long time ago. Please tell me about the beginning stages of what you noticed with his Alzheimer's dementia.
Okay. Well, initially, his being very attentive to details about things. I don't want to call it anal, but yeah, he was very, some people call it persnickety. But in any event, he had retired, and I noticed the repetition. Everything was repeating the same thing over and over again. And at first, I thought, he's just bored. No, it was the beginning. So I decided to tell him he needed to go for his annual physical because he hadn't had one. I
Right.
wanted confirmation that this is what was going on. It's been in his family, and I wanted to try and get a grip quickly. After going to visit his primary doctor, he noticed some things as well. He asked him a couple of questions and decided he was going to set him up with a neurologist. After a couple of visits with trying to make sure it wasn't a problem with his prostate or this and that, because a lot of times that behavior mimics prostate problems.
Really? I
But
didn't know that.
yeah, that's why they took us through a couple of different tests dealing with that before they actually did the scan of the brain. That was definite confirmation. Once they did the MRI, I noticed it right away when we walked into the doctor's office. It looked as if someone had taken an eraser and just grayed out a little section of his brain. That was the beginning. He's starting to lose it. He was still pretty much okay then. Very, very personable, lively, talkative, happy. But we started taking medication, donepezil at first, which was just going to slow down the process. It wasn't a cure. And he was okay with that. Eventually, it started getting a little worse in his behaviors, things that just were not him. I
and, and,
decided to,
and things like that. What
I'm
were like?
sorry.
Can you give an example? Can you give an example of one of those things that wasn't like?
Yes, he was very neat and bathed himself, took care of his clothes, changed his clothes, just different little things. But
Right,
I noticed that he wasn't doing those things, taking care of the yard, raking, burning leaves and stuff like that.
right.
He never did that anymore either. That just didn't interest him. He just didn't want to go anywhere, didn't want to drive. He said, "Well, I'll let you drive."
And he used to
But
love to drive, didn't he?
yes, I
Mm,
never drove the whole time we were married.
yeah.
Almost 39, well, almost 40 years. He
Mm,
drove everywhere. But that one time I said, "Well, you drive and I'll get out when we go to the dump." Well, he pulled out in front of a vehicle on number
oh,
one. Yeah, I kept my cool, but it was kind of scary. And I think
mm,
it scared him as well because he no longer wanted to drive after that.
right.
He had a little pickup truck. He didn't want to drive that. He just didn't want to drive. We would visit family, grandchildren, and he always drove. It's a 4-hour drive. Nope. Not anymore. I drove. Just, he didn't want to go anywhere. He didn't want to do anything. He was always writing stuff down, taking notes about everything. The
Mm,
repetition about anything. CNN, oh, he was obsessed with the news.
wow.
And CNN, they're going to tell you the same thing every 30 minutes or so anyway.
Right, right, right.
But it had gotten to the point where every 30 minutes, it was as if it was brand new to him. Hey, look at this. Oh my goodness, look at what's going on.
Yeah.
And I really worried about that. But when we had the grandchildren for a while, he always loved them. He was also patient. He never wanted to reprimand them or anything. But we had them for a while, and it seemed to have gotten on his nerves. So I told the doctor about this, and he said this is something that happens. So he prescribed Namenda to help with his mood. Okay, so now we have the Donepezil and Namenda, which we took daily.
Okay.
The children would just get on his nerves so bad. He didn't want to be around them, and that was unusual. He loved them so much.
Right.
That was unusual for him. So I had to try and keep too much excitement at bay. I didn't want him around too much livelihood, loud
Right.
things, or he'd meet people in the grocery store and he would talk their ears off I said he doesn't get out much. And they seemed to understand, but most people never knew he had this problem.
They
Only
couldn't
I
tell.
knew it.
They couldn't
He
tell
talked
from what they
very
saw.
well.
Yeah.
He was always on top of his game that way. Nobody knew, not even
So
his family.
he talked
And
really
now that
well.
I'm getting to his family,
Yeah.
I made it a point to visit more often. His family lived in Texas, a good little
Mhm.
ways away. And most, or quite a few, I won't say most, but yeah, most, quite a few members in his immediate family suffered this same problem. And they didn't even know that this was his problem because he did so well with it.
He did really good.
Camouflaged it. You wouldn't believe.
Right.
And when we were visiting once, he had a stroke. That stroke was something that they told me is common also with Alzheimer's patients. I knew something was wrong right away. He came downstairs and he didn't have on socks. He never walked around barefoot. And if he did, his toes were turned up to the ceiling like, oh my God, it's something nasty. But he came down very relaxed, just walking barefoot. Hey, how you doing? And I'm like, good. How are you? Oh, I'm great. So I asked him, who's the president? Which was one of the questions that they ask sometimes when we went to our sessions.
Right.
And he says, the president. I said, yeah, what's his name? He says, the president. So I told my other son, I said, something's wrong. He slipped too far too quickly. I thought it was the Alzheimer's. I didn't know what it was. I got in touch with the doctor right away, and they said it might be a infection, a UTI, or urinary tract infection. Check his stream, check this, check that,
Right.
That wasn't the problem. So I immediately got transportation back to his doctor right away. At which time we discovered he had had a stroke. Fortunately for him, that bleed subsided without leaving a tumor. So
It can
he
leave a
did very
tumor.
well through that whole thing.
You said so the stroke can cause a tumor.
Well, yes, the stroke, yes, he had a stroke. And there's blood that gathers all around that place.
Okay.
So when the blood dissipated, it did not leave a tumor, which oftentimes it does with Alzheimer's patients. So I knew then we had a little more time because he didn't have a tumor. Well, of course, we needed more Namenda and we needed more Donepezil to try and prolong a little bit longer, but he would be up all night long. He'd be up all night long, taking things out, putting them back, taking them out, putting them back. And I said, this isn't good. I had cameras around the house to make sure he didn't go out of the
Right.
house.
Right.
Another tip I can give you while I'm talking about this is that once he took a little walk and he wasn't far and he did come back eventually. But in the meantime, I had contacted the police and they were going to bring the dogs and all that stuff. But I was told to take a cotton ball and swab it behind his ear and put it in a freezer. This way, should he wander again, they could use the cotton ball for the dogs to track his scent. So that's something a lot of people don't know. They might need to know that this will definitely help to find your loved one right away. So, okay. Oh, I want to tell you what that's called. But anyway, he'd be wide awake, but sleeping.
So like
And the first
sleepwalking?
I noticed it, he says,
Yeah.
Tina wants to get in. And I said, what? Yeah, she's outside. She's knocking on my window and she wants to get in. So I said, okay, well, who am I? He said, Tina. Okay. So I'm going to go to the door and see if I can let her in. Oh, she must have left. And he accepted that. It was okay. But he still didn't go back to bed. The next day, he didn't know anything about that. He didn't remember anything about it. Well, he was pretty nice during that time. But
Yeah.
then he started getting mean, really mean, like wanting to hurt me mean. But I realized that he doesn't know that it's me. He saw somebody else. It wasn't me. It was someone else from his past, maybe, that he had a problem with. But I ended up running from him because I didn't know what he was going to do. Well, this was going on like every maybe month or so, once a month. He would go through this and he was getting meaner and meaner to the point where I needed help. And I am very fortunate that I had sons that would come and get him, and so that he could spend some time away, give me a break, because I loved him. I knew this was not him. This behavior was not him. His behavior changed within the last year,
The
where he was
most.
just violent. He didn't want to be around people. He was mean, but I knew that wasn't him. I knew that wasn't him. So I continued to care for him. And one day, a neighbor told me that he could spend some time at a nearby facility to give me a break. Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you. The trouble was that I couldn't talk to anybody about him having Alzheimer's because he was in denial. I don't have that. Not me. Oh no. He was very upset. So I I just couldn't say anything like that around
Right,
him.
right.
So I waited until I had the time and space to call the facility and set up an appointment. Well, they finally came and they said to me, "Ma'am, you should have called us a long time ago."
Wow.
They saw that I really needed their help and I was dealing with this by myself. I get up. Okay, I'm going to tell you what else. Every morning, I would give him, he had gotten to the point where he didn't want to drink coffee. I would give him a shake to start his day, and I would have my coffee to help him to just be calm throughout his day. And it did. Along with his medication, it was very helpful for him and for me. That's how we made it through our days. I would try to read to him audio books, things like this. That was great, but he didn't want to go anywhere. He didn't want to do anything. And then I said, well, let's just take a ride. And we would go for rides in the evening, along with his other medications, were really working for him. But by the time they came from this facility to help me and they set it up, they came in, they did a physical assessment and, temperature, da da da, blood pressure, yada yada. Okay. And he was in the bed. Well, once they left, he never got out of the bed. He had started to soil himself, which he never did before. And he just couldn't understand. He wasn't in control. What's going on? He was panicking. Why is this happening to me? This was 2 weeks before he passed away, that he lost control of all of his everything.
Motor functions.
Yeah, and he stayed in the bed. They had a bed delivered, hospital bed, and all this, bedside commode and shower things and, things that the visiting nurse could come in and help with. We got this on a Friday afternoon, and Saturday they called and said, we've got a bed available in the facility here. It was strange that they called. I said, okay, great. Well, they said, well, you can just bring him in. I said, well, I can't do that. Well, how about a wheelchair? I said, no. They ended up coming to get him with a stretcher because he would not, he was sleeping. He wouldn't open his eyes. He wouldn't take his medication. Nothing. His brain was telling him these things. His brain was telling him, this is what Alzheimer's does. There's so many different kinds. I didn't realize it. There are those that tell you that you can't move your legs, that you're paralyzed. There are those that tell you that you're blind and you can't see. His told him he didn't want to eat. He didn't need to eat. And all he wanted to do was sleep. They came and got him with a stretcher on a Saturday, and the following Saturday, he was gone. Alzheimer's for the caregiver is horrible because you love this person that you still see, but what's inside their head and their body is not that same person. But what hurt the most was when he had those moments of clarity and realized that he was not himself. That hurt him so badly. He looked like he was ready to cry, and there was nothing I could say or do. So when he told me that he was tired, he wanted to go home, who was I to argue with him? Because Alzheimer's does not give you any of quality of life for you or your family. So I understood he was ready.
Yeah.
He was ready, and I understood it. I miss him. The memories I have are all great. I don't have any bad memories from when he was going through the Alzheimer's and all of that. I can laugh at some of the stuff that he did because it wasn't him.
Yeah.
But from a caregiver's point of view, it's not easy when you're going through it. But you love that person so much, you're going through it. You can't be mean to them just because they're mean to you. The only thing you can do is walk away. When you get a break, just walk
Right.
away. Don't try to
Right.
argue or discuss it. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yep. That works. But as I said, there's so many different types of this horrible disease. So many. And
I didn't
I
know
saw it.
that. I had no idea of that.
Yeah, there's so many different types. This one that affects you is, oh, it's most common, I guess. It's most common.
You know, the caregivers. I know he had caregivers at the facility as well, and I'm sure they see this a lot. Go in and out. People coming in and out for Alzheimer's, dementia. I thought that after you got dementia, Alzheimer's, that you could live a lot longer. You know, I've seen older people with dementia. You know, I did not know that it could take you out so fast. You know,
Well,
and it just
true,
makes me
but when
wonder.
I think about how long he was actually suffering, he was still working.
He was still
He was
working when
still
he had it.
working. This was before he retired.
Right.
And he just could not seem to grasp the technology that he needed
Right.
to do his job. And he couldn't keep up. He couldn't keep up. And he would get so, I don't know, he would wander so far off the subject that it was difficult to come back before his time was up. He liked to teach, and he was, after he retired for a while, teaching GED classes. He loved that. He was doing okay. But one time he got off subject because of something that happened in the class. And when he tried to go back to it, he didn't know what he was supposed to do. And they laughed. You forgot. You forgot what you were talking about. Yeah, he did. But he knew that it was time for him to leave.
Yeah.
Retired because he could not keep up.
Right.
He would lose his trend of thought.
Train of thought. Yeah.
He would pay too much detail to something that wasn't necessary. And it was hard. I saw it and I couldn't help him. I couldn't help him. Once he retired, I said, well, why don't you take a cooking class? They're offering that for free, just trying to provide things for him to do, to stay busy, to keep his mind active, to be social. And he did that for a while, but you could tell that he was getting to the point where he didn't want to do it because he realized he wasn't remembering.
Yeah, and that's devastating.
It's difficult. It's difficult.
Well, and see, here's the thing about it. Like a lot of people I know, they suffer from that memories loss. There's times that you can't remember things. And a lot of people just automatically jump like, oh man, I might have dementia, I might have Alzheimer's. I know you mentioned earlier you were able to spot it earlier on. What are some ways to spot it the earliest, besides, of course, the stroke?
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, things they're daily habits. You if you're married to someone for a good little while, you pretty much know their routine and how they do things. Excuse me. You know when those things have changed. It's not forgetting things temporarily as we're younger, but then we can remember. It's not the same. It's not Alzheimer's. To forget about, oh, that's now the thing is for me right now, I can't think of this sundown
Oh, sundown.
syndrome. See, I
Sundown.
told you I'd think of it eventually. Sundown.
Yeah.
When the sun goes down. Yeah. They don't remember anything. And he was very, I think the other thing might be manic with not being able to sleep, but he would be wide awake, but couldn't tell you anything about what he did. He didn't remember any of it, but it's called sundown syndrome.
It sounds like a blackout, almost like, you got too drunk
Yeah.
and you blacked out. That's what it sounded like.
And he had gotten so mean. The person that he loved the most, well, I know he loved me. I do. I know that.
Yeah.
But he would do little things to try and hurt me, like things up while he was up at night and I was sleeping, supposedly. He would take things that belonged to me and hide them. And he would hide them up high because he knew that I was short and I wouldn't see it. He took my remotes for the TVs. He took my costume jewelry that I used to wear to work and he hid it. He took my suitcase that I usually take when we travel and hid it.
And where did he do that?
He just things that he thought I really, really liked and cared for. He would hide them all night long, just moving up and down, outside, inside. And no, he knew nothing about it.
Oh
And
man.
oh, the other thing I noticed early on,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't know it until later, we could be visiting with family. If it was something that he liked, he would pick it up and he'd examine it and he'd put it in his pocket.
Right in his pocket.
He would take it with him.
And it's funny
My
you say that
daughter-in-law
because
had a
it's
pop socket.
it's
He
funny you
liked
say
it.
that. That's what he would do. He would give me gifts. He would say, "Hey, here, you want this? You know, hey, you like this right here? You can have it. It's yours." I'm like,
Yeah,
well,
right.
thank you. I appreciate that. Where'd you get it from?
Oh,
You
no.
know, I just had that. You know, it's yours.
Yeah. Oh, he was very nice, very
Very
generous.
generous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went to visit my sister when she was, and I'm trying to think of what it was. He saw something in the bathroom. He had it. I said, "Is that yours?" He said, "Yeah, you want it?"
Not yeah, you want it.
Oh, what could I say? Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. And he became
Mm.
very childlike. I was more like his mother than his wife.
At the very
He
end of it all.
Yeah. We would go out, and his favorite place was Golden Corral because he loved to eat. He had a big appetite for a little man. He loved to eat. And a buffet was, man, that was his
Not enough.
place.
Uh-huh.
He'd fill up off the salad bar, then he'd go get some more food. Then he'd go outside and take a smoke, come back in, eat dessert.
He come back in after taking a smoke and go in again. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then he'd take a break, use the bathroom, go back
Yeah.
and eat some more.
Oh
He was
man.
funny. But the last time I took him to the Golden Corral, we walked in, and the first thing he wanted were all the sweets.
Yeah.
I said, "Do you really think you should eat that first?" Well, he got an attitude with me and he threw it back. Fine. Okay, fine. Okay, I'm sorry. You can have it. I just thought you might want some other things as well.
Yeah.
Well, he had an attitude then. So he goes and gets some stuff, puts it on his plate, a little something, picked at it a little bit, and then I don't want nothing. I said,
Oh.
"You don't want to get any more cake?" "No." "Okay.
Oh. Oh. Yeah.
I'm so sorry." But he got mad at me because I said, "Are you going to eat something else before you eat your cake?" He just, yeah.
Yeah.
And when we would go places, he'd walk like just behind me where he could keep up.
Yeah.
He had really started to fall off towards the end. But in the
Yeah.
beginning, like I said, just things like the stuff at work,
Yeah.
making breakfast. "Hey, you want me to make some breakfast before you go?" And I'm like,
Hmm.
"No, that's okay."
Yeah.
And I'd go in the back and I'd come back. "Hey, how about I make you an
You want
egg
to
or
make some
something before
breakfast?
you go to work?"
Right. Yeah.
And that's what made me call the doctor and see what was going on with him. And I had to lie and tell him, "Well, you haven't had your physical for this year.
Right.
So we need to go see." And he loved his doctor now, his primary. He loved him. "Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, great. Yeah, yeah." And I told the doctor when I made the appointment, I asked the nurse if I could speak to him and tell him what was on my mind. And I mentioned family history, his parents and siblings having this problem
Right.
and his behavior. And yeah, he asked him a couple of questions. We did our exam and everything. But
Yeah.
after asking him a couple of questions, it was, yeah, we're going to make you an appointment. And he loved his neurologist, but he didn't know exactly why we were seeing this guy. He just liked him.
Right.
And I liked him too because he was really trying to help. He got to know both of us. And after I found out that one of his children had a similar problem, which explains his dedication to his
Yeah.
patients.
Right.
He tried, "Well, why don't we try some coconut oil?" He was constantly researching stuff.
Yeah.
And he would share that with us.
That's good.
But, it was really bad by then because, when you go, they have a series of little tests that they do with you to determine where you are in this horrible thing.
Yeah. This
They would,
chapter.
3 questions, they would say, "Okay, I'm going to give you 3 things to remember: brown shirt, Big Apple." And then
Hmm.
okay, got it. Brown shirt, Big Apple. Okay, great, great. And then he'd start talking about something else. And then he would say, "Remember those 3 things? What were they?" One was a color. He would even give him a hint at
Mm.
he couldn't
Right.
remember.
Yeah.
He couldn't remember.
Well, let me
So
let me let me let's we're going to go ahead and we're coming up on that time right now. I want to shut down the conversation, but I think this is another conversation that's going to be had about this in the future. I really do appreciate you coming and talking to me about this, because this is some insight that people need to have with this disease. It's definitely a challenge for the person dealing with it and a challenge for the people surrounding them. And more research needs to be done, but at this point in time, this is what we got. I want to have you on again, if you don't mind. I do appreciate you coming by once again. I'm going to go ahead and give you is there anything else you want to say to the people before we get out of here?
Patience, research for yourself, and make sure you stay in touch with a good doctor. Yeah.
Good doctor. Absolutely. I think we'll have to put some information for that in the description below. Well, I do appreciate you once again. Thank you so much. We're signing off. Peace, love, and blessings. Until next time.